Greetings and thank you for tuning in to Walking in Wealth. I'm your host, JD Garnier, and you are listening to KKNOK 75 AM or 107.1 FM radio in New Orleans, or you're tuned into the Melanomics podcast. I hope you had a productive week in your wealth creation journey. Listen, my goal is simple: to help you walk in wealth, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. To take the things that God has already given you and use those to create a life of purpose, so that wealth is more than just what you acquire. Wealth is who you become. You are the wealth, not your investments, not your real estate, not your business. You are the wealth. And before you have any of those things, you have a unique and specific set of talents, abilities, gifts, ideas, habits, disciplines, and inclinations that form the basis of everything that you do in this world. And once you tap into that, you start your wealth creation journey. So again, you are the wealth. Listen, first things first, if you're not following me on social media, please follow me on Instagram at Garnier JD, Facebook at JD Garnier Senior, and please subscribe, like, and share the Melanomics YouTube channel. You can also download audio of my podcast by subscribing to the Melanomics on iTunes and Spotify. Lastly, if you are in the New Orleans area, you can catch my radio show every Monday and Wednesday at 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock a.m. on KKNO 75 a.m. or 107.1 FM radio in New Orleans. If you would like to contact me about topics that I discuss on my show, you can email me directly at jd@jdgarnier.com. That is jd@jdgarnier.com. Always remember, I do not provide investment, tax, or legal advice or make any recommendations related to any products or services. All investments involve risk, and I advise that you meet with a professional before making any decisions. If you would like to meet with me in a professional capacity, please schedule an appointment through my website. We have a mission to close the racial wealth gap. Many economists and experts believe that it could take centuries, but I believe that we can close the wealth gap in one generation once you come to the undeniable conclusion and indisputable fact that you are the wealth. Now listen, we have a lot to talk about. There is a lot to discuss. There's a lot to contemplate. There's a lot to analyze. There's a lot to figure out. But I think that's the problem. I think the fact that there is so much for us to have to think about. I think our situation is so dire, it is so magnificent that we become overwhelmed or consumed with the thought. And you ever heard of something called paralysis by analysis? You analyze something so much that you become paralyzed and you don't take any action. There is so much for us to do to fix the conditions of our community. And we all know that there is a lot to do, but nobody's doing anything. And I don't want to say anybody, because there are people doing some real work. But collectively, it seems like we are not moving the needle. And maybe the issue is we get overwhelmed with the thought that so much needs to happen that in all likelihood, nothing is going to happen. And once we start to get consumed with that thought, then we become hopeless because we don't think that anything is possible. But see, I don't believe in that. I believe if there's a chance, then there's a possibility. If there's a possibility, then there may be things I can do to make it a probability. Once something becomes a probability, it is fully within my control to make it possible. And so when I think about all the things that we have to do, I'm optimistic that we can get it done. But in order for that to happen, we have to be very specific. And, I get encouraged, right? Because now on social media or just in the internet in general, there is no shortage of content. And over the past several years, there's been a lot of content geared towards building wealth, establishing wealth, financial literacy, financial education. You can go on any podcast, you can go on any YouTube channel, any Instagram page, and there's someone giving you some type of advice, right? You should try this, you should do this, right? Even to the point where we get the opportunity to hear celebrities, right, that have amassed millions and hundreds of millions, in some cases even billions of dollars from some of their efforts, some of their investments, some of their business acumen. And I'm appreciative that we are able to figure out or dig deep into what some of these wealthy people or the wealthiest people in our country have done. But then I think about it and I say, you know what? I understand all of this stuff. I've been doing what I've been doing for 25 years. I deal with all of the complexities of finance, all of the complexities of money. But for the average person listening to this, I'm sure they're like, man, I'm happy, that Shaquille O'Neal owns 100 movie theaters. I'm happy that Magic Johnson owns all of this. I'm happy, that these celebrities are able to do these types of investments. That's amazing, that they can get into these industries. But how do I start from where I'm at? And I think that is the question that a lot of people ask themselves, right? They get all this information. They're like, okay, these are good real estate strategies. These are good stock investment strategy. These are good retirement tips. These are good tips for my credit. And I have all this information. But how do I start from where I'm at? And that's the question that I want to answer today. Regardless of all of that, all this information that we can get, all these ideas, all of these tips, all of these strategies, regardless of where you are in life, how do you start from where you at? Because that's what everybody wants to know. That's what everybody's trying to figure out. And in the process, they get inundated with all this information, all of these ideas, and they become overwhelmed and consumed with all of the possibilities that they become paralyzed because they're overanalyzing. Paralysis by analysis. And so the question I want to answer today is, how do I start from where I'm at? And we're talking about wealth. We're talking about wealth. You all know I define wealth as the separation of time and money. You don't become wealthy until you have an increase in your money, an increase in your value, an increase in your income without the requirement of your time. And once that happens, once you separate your earnings, your income, your value from your time, you start to build wealth. And the ultimate goal is that you have enough things of value to replace the requirement of your time fully. The only way to build wealth is to own and control things of value. We call those things assets. There's only 3 ways to acquire assets. You can buy assets, you can create assets, or you can become an asset. And so I don't care if you're a young man or woman that's just starting out your life. You're in school trying to figure out your next move, trying to figure out what profession you want to pursue, how you want to go about making money, any of those things. Or if you're a person in your 20s, maybe a few years into your career, you're trying to figure out how you want to translate your passions, translate what you're doing into actually making substantial amounts of money so that you can follow your own path. Or maybe you're somebody that's chosen a profession, right? You started to make some money. You feel like you're on the right path, but now you want to translate that into wealth. Or maybe you tried to take a chance on yourself and you started a business. You followed a passion. You're pursuing something that you've always wanted to do. And you want to figure out how to expand and how to grow that. Or if you're well entrenched in your life, you're well entrenched in your career, and now you're thinking about the next step. You're thinking about legacy. You're thinking about financial independence. Regardless of any of those circumstances, the question is, how do I start from where I am? The answer is simple. It's only 3 ways to build wealth: buy assets, create assets, or become an asset. The first place you start, I don't care what available resources you have, I say it on this show every time, is that you are the wealth. Not your investments, not your real estate, not your business. You are the wealth. And so in order for you to be the wealth, you have to identify your value. That starts with your purpose. And so the first question I would ask you is, are you living in your purpose? Whether you're stuck on a job, whether you're in a career path that you're interested in, whether you're in a business that you love but you're not making any money, the first question I have for you is, are you living in your purpose? Because your purpose is going to extract as much value out of you as possible. See, if you're doing something that you're not purposed to do, it's impossible for you to give it 100% of your energy. It's impossible for you to give it everything that you got. I don't care how much money it pays. If it's not attached to your purpose, it's impossible for you to maximize what you can do with that. And so, are you living in your purpose? If you're not, you may be making enough money to sacrifice your purpose. You have to justify that. But if you are not living in your purpose, what you're doing is not sustainable. Even if it is financially beneficial, it's not going to give you peace. It's not going to give you comfort. And so you have to be honest with yourself. Are you living in your purpose? If not, then the question is, what do you need to change in order for you to adjust and shift to your purpose? Now, I say this all the time. Your purpose is not your profession, right? You can live your purpose through your profession. So just because you're not happy with your job doesn't mean that changing jobs is going to ultimately reveal your purpose. The first thing you have to do is know your purpose. You got to know why you're here. You got to know what God's original instruction is in your life. But once you identify that and once you know what that is, you have to figure out a way to live in your purpose. It's not quitting your job. It is adjusting your life, managing your day in a way that allows you to manifest and execute your purpose. You're going to have to change some things about what you're doing. Once you identify your purpose, you are going to have to structure your time and your day in a way where you can execute your purpose. I knew my purpose was to inspire and to impact people. I started to position myself in a way where I wanted to speak to people. I can't tell you how many years I spoke to people. I traveled places. I gave people all I could to inspire them for free. I didn't make a dime for it, but I knew I was purposed to do it. And if I could touch somebody's life, if I could impact somebody, that was my payment, because I was purposed to do it. I was purposed to inspire. I was purposed to empower. I was purposed to make the complicated simple. And so, are you living in your purpose? That's the first question. Because that is the only way for you to become an asset. Once you start living in your purpose, then you find ways to add value to people's lives. Once you figure out the best, most efficient way based on the talents that you possess to add value to people's lives, now you can attach value to that. Now you can increase your earning potential. Now you can figure out a path for you to become an asset, to increase your earning power. Once you have established yourself to be able to earn enough money to take care of all of your financial obligations, to take care of your rent, to take care of all of your expenses, all of those things. See, we have to start there. If you don't have enough income to take care of your basic expenses, then you shouldn't be investing anything at this point. You should be reinvesting into yourself to be able to increase your earning potential so that you can earn enough money to be able to take care of all of your expenses. Once you get to that point, now you have to make decisions about where your excess capital is going to go. I told you, there's only 3 ways to build wealth: buy assets, create assets, or become an asset. So once all of your obligations and expenses are paid and you have extra discretionary income, that income should be going to either buying assets, stocks, bonds, real estate, investing however you can. If you're an employee, take advantage of any benefits that you have. Automatically set up any monthly distributions from your paycheck to a savings account, to a brokerage account, to an investment account. Automate your wealth building. But all of that excess money should be going to either buying assets. Again, I'm not making any specific recommendations, but you can buy physical assets like real estate, commercial property. You can buy securities, stocks, bonds, annuities, ETFs, mutual funds, hedge funds, the list goes on. The goal is you want to have the mindset of buying and owning and controlling things of value. That's your first option. Your second option is to create assets. If you have had the idea, the dream, the inspiration to be a business owner, that's what you're doing when you create assets. You're creating something that never existed before. You're creating something that has an identifiable value in the marketplace. That's what a business is. Once it has that value, you can either sell it on the open market or transfer it to your family members as a part of generational wealth. But the first step is to create the asset. And so if your goal is to be a business owner, your discretionary earnings should be going towards that end, towards that goal, whatever it is to make that happen. You should be planning towards that goal. Your daily activities should be set up towards getting that business going. And then the third way is to become an asset. If you decide, I want to be a physician, I want to be a teacher, I want to be an attorney, I want to be an accountant, and you pursue a profession where you may be employed, but you can make a lot of income, then if you're not buying assets, if you are not creating assets, you should be taking that discretionary money and reinvesting in yourself to become as specialized, to become as credentialed as possible in your profession. Because that is what's going to separate you from your competition. That is what's going to get you the accolades that are necessary to increase or maximize your earning potential. And so if you are not buying assets, if you are not creating assets, you should be investing in yourself to become as much of an asset as possible, to increase your earning potential as much as possible so that you can continue to create the process. And the process is automating the buying, the creating, or the becoming of an asset. Period. Now, what is that number? That's different for everybody. But you have to determine what number is necessary for you to be financially independent. And so once you know that number, now you have a financial goal. And now you determine what is the most efficient way for you to get to that goal. What rate of return do you need? How much do you need to be putting away on a monthly, on an annual basis? And what is more prudent for you to do? Buy assets, create assets, or become more of an asset. That's the basis of your financial plan. Once you have that number in mind, now you have an attainable goal that you commit to monthly, annually, year after year after year. That becomes your mindset. That becomes your mindset. You don't build a house in a day. You build a house brick by brick by brick by brick. And every day you laying brick, you're not paying attention to one insignificant brick. But you continue in the labor, you continue in the build. And one day you look up and you have a house. That's how you build wealth. I know that's boring. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not like some play that you can turn on the internet and get. But that's not how you build wealth. You build wealth through consistency and commitment. The mindset of consistent cultivation, consistency of repeating the process of buying, owning, and controlling things of value. Once you have that mindset, one day you're going to look up and you have a whole bunch of liquid investments. You're going to have a whole bunch of real estate over here. Right? You're going to have a whole bunch of business interests over here. And you've accumulated and you've established and you have built an entire portfolio. But it takes time to do that. It does not happen quick. But whether you're on the path of employment, whether you're on the path of business ownership, the first step is to develop that mindset. Because if you have the mindset at 30,000, then it's going to be extremely easy to maintain it at 300,000. But if you don't have it at 30,000, you'll never get to 300,000. And so that's how you start from where you at. Now there's another way to answer that question. Because as much as we are struggling or suffering in a lot of ways individually, right? And we want to figure out our path to financial independence. We want to figure out our path to financial success. As a community, there is a tremendous amount of concern around the economic circumstances that we currently hold. I see the numbers all the time. The average black family controls less than 3% of the wealth. Our average net worth is 10 times less than that of a white family in this country. Only 5% of the businesses in our community have employees. Over 90% of our businesses fail within the first 18 months. And so there are many, many, many reasons for all of the negative data around our economic circumstances. But the question remains, where do we start? How do we start from where we at? And the answer is melonomics. And I'm gonna break it down for you, because this is what it's all about. See, people think that it takes the entire community to change the way that they think for our economic circumstances to change. But in reality, it only takes a tipping point. It only takes a small majority committed to a specific goal for us to be able to change our circumstances. And so once a small unified group of people commit to a specific set of actions, that is powerful enough to sway the entire circumstances of an entire community. The question is, what are those actions? And that's what we're going to talk about. How do we start from where we at? And so if you, like me, you're a person that cares deeply about your own community. You care deeply about the circumstances. You care deeply about changing the trajectory. But you don't know where to start. I'm going to tell you right now, this is where you start. This is the whole premise of Melonomics. This is what it's about. This is what it means. It is the continuous sharing and implementation of a unified mindset centered around wealth. And it starts with one person. It starts with you. Once you have decided that you are going to be the catalyst, you are going to be the change agent, you are going to be the person that diverts your family off the path to financial ruin and on the path to financial independence, to financial success, to generational wealth. Now you take ownership of this mindset. What is this mindset? It is vertical and horizontal wealth integration. The first thing that you have to do, once you have made the decision to get your financial affairs in order, to be the catalyst and change agent in your family and your community, this is the first thing that you have to do. Once you develop the wealth mindset, you have to take accountability and take responsibility to ensure that that mindset permeates vertically throughout your family. You have to become the linchpin to put your family back together in a unified mindset generationally. That means that you have to have difficult and tough conversations with your parents if they're still living, about their ideas about wealth, about ensuring that their affairs are in order, making sure that wealth flows properly from one generation to the next. But you also take on the responsibility of ensuring that your children share the collective mindset about wealth. They understand what it is, they understand how important it is, and they understand the mindset of commitment and consistency. And that mindset is shared vertically from generation to generation, right? You are transferring value. And so you're ensuring, number one, that your affairs and your parents' affairs are in order so that financial assets can flow properly. They can flow responsibly, and they can flow free of penalty, of taxes, or fees. You want to create a free-flowing pipeline of wealth. You want to make sure your affairs are in order. Make sure you have the right conversations with attorneys, with CPAs, with your advisors to make sure that you are passing wealth properly. That's the first thing. But secondly, you want to make sure that you are passing not only the value, but the values. And so again, you want to create that vertical pipeline throughout your family, throughout your lineage, throughout generations to make sure that y'all on the same page, right? Have conversations with your parents about their ideas about wealth, about their ideas about money. Share yours. Make certain that you both understand and value some of the same things. And you communicate those same values to your children. Now you are all on one accord from generation to generation. You have created a pipeline of financial assets, of intellectual assets, and of assets regarding the valuables, the things that money can't buy, the family lineage, the respect, the history. You create all of that with a vertical pipeline from generation to generation. But it can't stop there because you only know what you know. And so all of the information, all of the knowledge that you gain as the change agent, as the catalyst in your family, you're sharing up the pipeline to your parents and down the pipeline to the next generation. But you only know what you know. And so that's where horizontal integration comes into play. That's where the community comes into play. That's where your network comes into play. That's where sharing information among your peers comes into play. That's where building relationships with professionals, with attorneys, with advisors, with CPAs, with business owners, and sharing that information throughout our community. Because what I don't know, my friend might share me an idea. My other friend might give me a strategy. My other friend might give me a tip. My other friend may introduce me to some great relationships that can help me. And as I'm getting that information, I'm sharing that to my other network. And as I'm acquiring it, I'm using it vertically to advance the interests of my family from generation to generation. And as I gather information from generation to generation, I am sharing that throughout my network. And so eventually, the information that is being free flowing through your peers permeates itself from generation to generation. And the information that you're getting from generation to generation, you are now able to go out and share horizontally to your entire network. And if we develop that mindset, now we are collectively working together with one another to establish a base of generational wealth. But it all starts with the mindset of a small majority of committed people, committed to a purpose bigger than themselves, and we can change the world. That's my show.